WTA connects learners with real-world skills and industry certifications.
From students to seasoned leaders, corporate executives to community activists, from the boardroom to the classroom, front desk to the construction site, we travel the country having real conversations to gain perspectives and insights on what it takes to thrive. This is the iBuild America podcast with your host, Byron V. Garrett.
Greetings, folks. It's Byron Garrett back with another episode of iBuild America podcast. So excited to be here, and we've got another amazing guest for you. As we told you, we'll always talk about policy and politics and business. Today, we're going to switch gears just a little bit in a slightly different direction. Insurance is one of the topics of the day that people talk about, whether it's personal, business, health, etc. But also still this thread of being an entrepreneur, and we got somebody who's also a music man. So think about the trifecta: insurance, business, and music. Welcome our guest to the podcast today, none other than Mr. Yonni Castillo.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. That's an amazing introduction.
It speaks to who you are. Which of those things is not true? You a businessman?
Absolutely.
You got your own State Farm agency?
Absolutely.
You a musician?
I have some instruments.
Right. How many instruments do you play?
I play a little bit of everything, so I would say jack of all trades, master of none.
And singing? Because that's not my ministry. Like I don't have the vocal ability.
So I can sing a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm a singer. I like to do some backup. But.
That's a good thing though. So well-rounded is what I tell people. In this day and age, we would call it multi-hyphenate, right? You've got these multiple areas that you're able to focus on, and obviously you've delivered a high level of success, even in starting your agency. I think you told me you were over on the other side of the business and was asked to come over on this side. How does that come about for somebody?
Yeah, most definitely. So my journey as an agent opened up the doors here. It wasn't something that I had initially planned when I started with State Farm 20 years ago. I led teams across the country in operations and claims. And it was a mentor of mine who said, you know what, Yonni, I got to get you over to the agency side. My first thought was, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a sales guy.
Right.
I'm a claims guy. I'm a people. I love to keep that promise. What we do. I'm not too interested in selling the promise, but
right.
But he encouraged me. He exposed me, and he seen something in me that perhaps maybe I didn't see in myself at the time.
And would you say throughout your career at different stages, you've always been fortunate to have great mentors, or?
Oh, that goes without saying.
Really?
Absolutely. Mentorship is probably, to me, one of the single most important parts of any journey in development. Of having someone, a confidant that you can talk to when you need to, someone who'll give you a hug, pick you up when you need it, someone who'll kick you in your butt when you need it.
That's right.
Someone who'll give you, a different perspective that we don't always see. So
somebody would also tell you you're not crazy. You're out here on your own, but you're not by yourself, right? Somebody else that can identify with that whole process.
Yeah, most definitely.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge? So you shift gears from on the operation side, truly being corporate, to really out independent in your own space and lane. What's been the biggest adjustment from doing that?
Oh, the biggest adjustment I think is probably just similar to life, just the continuous learning process. Coming from a claims guy, primarily auto, primarily injury. But learning every product State Farm offers, every product that we offer as an organization, which a lot of people may not know. Obviously life and health policies are very important to what we do. Life in particular is very important for me personally, just because our black and brown community is so underserved in that space.
That's right.
So often we don't understand the significance of life insurance until we have a benefit dance or we're having GoFundMe.
That's right.
So it's so important on that education awareness piece of how significant life insurance is. So
yeah, I often tell people, I don't care how much money you make or how much money you don't make, but in this particular country, I can't speak for the rest of the world. Right. As long as you live, you're going to die and pay taxes.
Absolutely.
And the best way to do that is also to be insured throughout the process. I've also found it an indicator of somebody else's ability to be successful. Not saying you can't be successful without it, but typically people who've structured their lives in a way, they probably have insurance. It is an indicator of your ability to do something else and different. Plus, it also, I think it takes away part of that concern or worry, like, how am I going to cover these expenses? Or if something happens, I meet people all the time who are like, I can't afford to get sick. And I'm like,
Right.
well, don't you have PTO, or don't you have sick leave, or do you have insurance? And then you hear people say all the time, I know when I was a school principal, like, Mr. Garrett, I can't be out. Like, I can't miss work. I can't afford to be sick because I don't have any insurance. I'm doing all this out of my pocket. And so that is a huge indicator to me from what I've seen throughout my career in different stages and spaces.
Right. And the trickiest thing about insurance as a whole, it's hard to value. It's hard to put value on something we can't see, we can't smell, we can't touch, right? I could tell you, Byron, you know what? I'm gonna sell you this watch. And this watch right here, it tells time.
Right.
I can take pictures from this watch,
Yep.
Touch is pretty cool. Huh?
Yep.
You can take pictures. You can, I can talk from this thing, right? But insurance, trying to make sure that people are aware of how significant it is. That's a challenge. Because again, statistically speaking, we're all going to need it at some point, right? You're exactly right. Everybody's going to need it at some point. And in addition to that, the time we do need it, it's going to be a time where it's going to be tough times, because rather it's a fender bender, rather it's a fatality. It's life impacting. But with all that said, it's something you don't think about. So trying to place value on that is difficult.
It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And I'm going to shift gears just for a second, because your background is so fascinating to me. I mentioned being a multi-hyphenate and all these things, and then I look at these words like hustle, execution, and grind, and all of those come into play with everything we do. How does one end up navigating business and life and family and being a dad and being a husband, and also have time for this I won't even say a beginning music career, but clearly an established music career, because you get booked and you do gigs. Like, how do you make all of that work?
A very, very, very understanding wife.
Okay.
And
shout out to the missus.
Absolutely, amazing partner. We just celebrated 26 years last month. Oh,
congrats!
But quite honestly, give all the glory to God. Give all the glory to God, and he created doors. He opened doors. He created opportunities, and whether it's business, professional, whatever the case. So. Just being faithful,
And I'm curious, out of all the things you do, what's your number one passion area? Is it music, or what would it be?
My number one passion in life is my family.
Oh, really? Okay.
Absolutely, because the other avenues are, they're all things to either provide for my family, the business. We're a small business shop, actually.
Yeah.
So we're family driven here. I absolutely live by, obviously, these three words are so important, but at the same time, understanding why these are important. Why are we doing this? And we're doing this because we work so we can live. I never live to work. You need to say that so they hear that, right? We work so what? Yeah, we work so we can live. We don't live to work, because. Again, always understanding why we are hustling, why we grinding, why we are executing, the plans that we have in place to reach our goals. Always keeping, for me, my family at the forefront of everything that we do. So
that shows.
That's important.
And curious, so mentioning your background, you're from Michigan, if I recall correctly.
Go Green, Michigan State all day. That's all we're gonna say.
We're not gonna get into that. I mean, somebody else. We have folks that support every single team. But I'm curious, how does one pack up and leave what you know in the state of Michigan and come to a state like Arizona? How do you decide to make that huge transition?
Well, I had this goal of being a businessman, and I packed up. I'm telling stories. I was told State Farm.
This is what we doing?
Yeah, State Farm said, we have a promotional opportunity for you. So you go to Phoenix, Texas, or Atlanta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you had an option, but why did you pick Arizona?
So
as opposed to Texas and Atlanta.
Funny you ask, because God works in mysterious ways. He's always working. Because the funny thing is, Phoenix was our third choice. So I'll never forget. Went home that day, talked to wifey. Said, babe, we have some decisions to make. Have opportunity to go into leadership. but they said it's going to be either Phoenix, Atlanta, or Texas. And they shared, can you prioritize them? You know, if you could pick where you wanted to go, where are you going? Looking back, I know they were just messing with me. They knew where I was going.
They knew you were coming to Phoenix.
Exactly. So Texas was our first choice because the majority of our family that's not in Michigan is in Texas, so it made sense.
Pretty close.
Atlanta was our second choice because it's somewhat in the middle. You know, we can visit our Texas family, we can visit our Michigan family, just far enough where family can't pop up, but
that part.
right. Phoenix was the last because we didn't know a soul. We did not know a soul here. But like I said, God knew what he was doing.
So let me get this right. So you pack up, move to a state where you know no one.
Exactly.
Except for the folks that hired you or gave you the promotion to come out to work for State Farm.
Yes, sir.
And now you've built an entire life and a business that's thriving on top of that.
Yes, sir.
So it is possible to just pick up and do something because that's what you need to do and that's the direction for your life.
Oh, it's absolutely possible. The only limits we have are the ones we put on ourselves, just like the good book tells us. So there's absolutely nothing we can do now. You know, our faith. I'm faith. I walk by faith. Everything we do is by faith. But also, we also know that the good Lord tells us to make sure we do everything humanly possible.
That's right.
He's not going to do nothing for us that we can do for ourselves.
Yeah. So as you think about this concept for the podcast, so it's iBuild America, and you know we talk with people from all walks of life, all background. What would you say? I build America. ... How would you say you build America? How would you answer that question?
I build America. I would say a few things. One, again, going back to the family. Being the best man I can be, being the best father I can be, being the best husband I can be, just being the best mentor. You know, sharing my experience, pulling. You know, make sure I'm pulling those up behind me. Make sure that I'm not, you know, as I climb, making sure that I'm not closing the doors on others, but pulling them up.
Okay.
Giving back in any opportunity I can, whether it's, you know, the mentees I still have in the organization, you know, from professional perspective or, you know, personal, that, you know, we just chop it up on life.
Wait, so the mentoring doesn't stop just because you relocated, you switch jobs to do something different?
No, we can't.
It's like a full-time gig, isn't it?
That it is. It never stops. And it's, quite honestly, it's, I would say not only just a privilege, but obligation.
Yeah.
Because those that did it before me, that helped open the doors. You know, I can look over my life, Byron, and I know I put in the work. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I absolutely put in the work. But I could look back through my life, and at any time there was a door closed. I could tell you somebody who helped open that with me. You know, I you know, we all like to say, you know, I did all on my own. I did it, whatever the case. No, we didn't. But at least to me.
No, I think you're right. It's a collective effort.
Absolutely. Takes a village.
And so when you think about this notion of I build America, so you were starting to say, so as a dad and family man, that's one way. What else does that mean to you when you say I build America?
So this is a real sensitive subject for me, in the sense of kind of what's going on in America right now, and what's being done to my people specifically. So just making sure that I'm using my voice, my platform, to make sure that I'm speaking out on what I see. I build America because I've never lost that empathy like I see so many of my fellow Americans. You know, nowadays we're in a place where if it's not impacting me, then I don't care. You know, I know what's right or wrong being done, but as long as it doesn't impact me or my family, then I'm gonna look the other way.
Right.
You know, and that's far too prevalent right now in society right now where we're at. So just you know, I always say, I tell everybody that I come into contact, you know, we always hear that, you know, I can't change the world. But we can.
That's
you know,
exactly right.
as long as I'm being a positive force in my circles of influence, then we're changing the world.
Well, it's interesting. One of my favorite sheroes in life, Dr. Margaret Mead, and she's always offered this quote that sticks out. So when you think about what the power of an individual, and she always says, never underestimate the power of the collective.
Absolutely.
It's the only thing that's ever changed the world. And it all starts with just one person. And so that notion of how do you actually build something, I tell people, if you're building a building, you still got to lay a foundation, and you're laying that possibly one brick at a time, one board at a time.
Right.
But it takes each of us in various roles to figure out what does it take for us to contribute. And you're right, this political climate, not only in the U.S. but abroad, it's taxing. But one of the reasons we're doing this particular series is to help people understand that despite of anything else that's going on, you still have the individual capacity to change the world, not only for yourself, but anybody else, that if you choose to give of yourself time and talent, it makes a big difference.
And it reminds me of something that's always stuck with me, the great Maya Angelou.
Yeah, that's one of my mentors, mentioning mentors, Dr. Auntie M, as we would say, but Dr. Angelou.
So one of the things I'll never forget was her famous quote. People may not always remember what you said. Yeah. People may not always remember what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
That's exactly right.
And that's so important to me, and that's how we live. That's what I teach. My family. That's what I try to influence those around me. Going back to that empathy piece.
Yeah.
People always remember how you make them feel.
Yeah. And it makes a huge difference. So I know we're running out of time, but I was going to ask you, and you may have just shared it, but are there other gems that you live by? Or are there other nuggets and kernels of wisdom that if you were sharing with your daughter or family or friends or mentees, what would you actually tell them? What would you want them to know?
Simply put, keep it moving. Keep it moving. Simply put, because life's going to present so many challenges. There'll always be some good, there'll always be some bad, there'll always be some ups, there'll always be some downs. But through it all, just keep moving, because that's all we can do. And at the end of the day, when we look in the mirror, the only person we can blame for us not achieving the heights or the goals that we want to achieve, just look in that mirror, keep moving.
Wow. So you all heard it here, businessman, insurance executive, all of those great things. Also musician, not, as I said, not a budding musician, but really dropping real gems and knowledge around this idea. And that keeping moving, that right there sticks with me. I always tell people that is one of the things. I either need to be progressing or moving, but it's got to be in a forward direction.
Absolutely.
And so thank you all for tuning in to this episode of iBuild America with our guest, Yonni Castillo. And we ask you to stay tuned. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And we'll see you on the next episode.
A big thank you to our sponsor, Workforce Training Academy, for making this episode possible.